No more questions?
You mentioned Mignola as an influence in the business side of things. I was wondering if you had any plans to kind of hold on to the writing of the Goon, but hand off the art chores and start expanding your universe.
That's one thing I probably won't do. We are expanding the universe a little bit. I'm working on a Buzzard miniseries that starts in May, I think. But basically, because Buzzard's story is kind of done in the Goon, so I'm kind of explaining what's happening to him and where he's going. But I don't know. I'm one of those people that kind of bums me out a little bit when I want to see Will Eisner drawing the Spirit, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I want to keep doing the books myself, but who knows? There might be a time when I just get sick of it and say, I don't care. Let somebody else do it. But I don't think I'll do that anytime soon. So. Yeah.
How long did it take you to be recognized by an editor or a publisher, working your way into the field? And do you have any tips or any suggestions for people that are trying to break into the industry in any format, whether they're, I guess writing is more difficult than art or inking or coloring, but are there any tips that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, writing is really difficult because you can't take a portfolio and go, hey, here's what I did. You have to get an editor to invest the time to sit down and read something you wrote, which is hard because they get so much stuff, submitted to them that it's really crazy. It seems to me that most writers get recognized after they put out a book and then it gets good reviews or something like that, and then they can actually get someone to take a look at it. I personally started off with doing some independent stuff for really small companies and kind of slowly built my way up until I was doing some inking work for Marvel and some little short fill-in issues here and there for Dark Horse. But that dried up and I almost quit comics because, I just wasn't getting the work. And then that's when I started doing the Goon and got a little bit of momentum off of that. Anybody? Right here.
Do you have any other characters in the Goon universe that you'd like to expand upon?
I was talking to a buddy of mine about maybe doing an Unholy Bastards story. It would be funny. We talked about it. I don't know if I want to say anything else about it, but yeah. There's so many of the characters in the Goon I don't really consider like characters to hold their own book. They're just kind of supporting cast, But I think the idea we had for this Unholy Bastards book would be kind of funny. Oh, I do want to do an Atomic Rage book. I have an idea, and it's kind of along the lines of the Sodomy Baby comic, so it would be funny. I need to get around to that one. That would be funny.
How old were you when you first drew your first comic?
Well, I was probably 19 or 20. Yeah, I was always doing illustrations. I was never drawing a full comic. Yeah, I would do little illustrations and write stories to go along with them in school and stuff like that, but I was never actually drawing comics. It wasn't until I wanted to get into the comic book industry that I started, because I thought, initially I was like, wow, they do all these little drawings and then someone goes in and pastes them, together. I didn't know it was that was the page, that was the way the drawing was done. So I was just, doing little drawings, and then I I don't know how I found out that that's how they did comics, but somehow I found it out and then started trying to do the pages. And I did some samples and sent them in or something, and they got really bad comments back.
Now, did you go to college for any sort of art? And would you recommend a college?
I would recommend it, but I didn't go. But that was more of the family situation, you know. It was, yeah, I think in an artistic field, it really matters how much talent and how much drive you have. You got to have a little bit of talent and a lot of drive, and but it only helps if you get training and learn. Because I'm self-taught, so I just experimented a lot with different medium and stuff. But if you go and you go to school and get taught from someone who has experience, you cut a lot of the cut a lot of that time down at least. So I think it's a good thing to get training, but it's not going to get the job for you,
Eric, in the current climate, the way that Diamond has kind of cut the indies down, do you think that if the Goon was just coming out now, that you would have been able to get it out there as much as you did?
I don't know. It would have been. I think it would have been hard to get into, harder at least to get into Diamond and get distribution, which is, essential to get the thing out there. But I don't know, with webcomics now, you see, I see a trend starting where people are putting out a lot of webcomics, and if a webcomic starts to get some attention and get a following, they'll start printing it as a book. So it's kind of a reverse thing, but yeah, it's difficult. It bums me out a little bit because I really wish that we had more variety in comics and more independent stuff being put out. But again, it goes to the market, and if the market's not supporting it, you can't. Diamond isn't making these decisions; it's the people buying the comics. And the retailers putting them on the shelves, and if Diamond's going to put them on the shelves if they're making money for them. So what do?
You need brave comics retailers. Is what you
Yeah, we do. We need people to try something else. We got to get new people, and I'm really happy to see. When I first started, in the late '90s, there's really been an influx of women creators and readers into the industry, which is good. And I think we need to get more diversity and more just people who want to read different stuff, and get the stigma away from, the idea that you're stupid if you read a comic. Like I gotta look at the pictures, because there's so many people. How many people who love, Pulp Fiction or Quentin Tarantino movies would love Sin City, Right. And it took a movie for it to come out for anybody to, to know about it. So.
That was what, DHP, 8-page installments when he first came out.
Yeah. So it's a shame, You just wish that you could put this stuff in people's hands,
Well, with your major publishers publishing these multi-issue crossovers, the retailers kind of have to give their clients what they're expecting, so little money's left out of their monthly budget to put forward to take a chance on, something that's unproven.
It's an inbred system, though. We're catering to the people who already come to the shops, and like I said, I love superhero comics as much as the next guy, but come on, do we need everything that's sold has to be a superhero comic, and everything has to be a multi-book event? You can't just go in and pick up a book and read it anymore,